Hey guys, so as you can see, today's video is going to be all about ferrets.
I'm Megan with Happy Tails Pet Care, and I'm a professional pet expert and nutrition consultant. My goal is to educate people about animals and help pet owners provide the best care to their beloved pets. See a pet in my video you like? Let me know, and I will feature that pet in more videos.
Ferrets make great pets for people who don't have a whole lot of time to spend with a pet. They sleep about 18 hours a day and they will adjust their schedule to your schedule. So when you're able to play with them, that's when they'll be awake. As long as you can spend a couple hours every day with them, they'll be happy. Ferrets do better in groups of 2 or more because they are very social. They are very playful and they love human interaction. They are very smart and they can learn their name, and they can also learn to do tricks. One of the downsides of having a ferret is that their poop does smell pretty bad. In my opinion, it is the worst smelling animal feces that I've had to clean up. The good thing is that they do go to the bathroom in the same place every time, so they can be taught to use a litter box. Their cage does need to be cleaned at least once a day, if not more, depending on how tolerant you are of the smell. Ferrets are not legal everywhere, but in places that they are legal, they're usually not very hard to find. If you have decided that you want a ferret, I suggest seeing if there are any ferrets available in your area that you can adopt first before trying to buy one. Especially if you're new to ferrets, an older ferret can be easier to handle. You want to make sure that your ferret is a good and healthy weight, that they're not too bony and skinny. Make sure that their fur, ears, eyes, and nose all look healthy, and make sure that they're not sneezing or have any sign of infection. I like to pick out ferrets that are not nippy and don't immediately try to bite me. Those ones are generally a little bit more gentle. Ferrets come in a lot of different color patterns, so there's a lot to choose from. You should get the biggest cage possible for your ferret. There are a lot of cages on the market, so what you want to look for is something that's tall and has multiple levels. Your ferrets will need time to play outside of their cage, but while they're in their cage, you want to make sure that they have plenty of room. Do not use wood shavings for ferrets. It can cause severe respiratory problems for them. Some people use bedding like Carefresh, but I find that it's easier to actually just provide the ferrets with blankets and then also provide a litter box for them. Don't use cat litter in their litter box. Use something like Carefresh, paper bedding, or corn cobs in their litter box. Some people allow their ferrets to actually free roam their house or certain parts of the house, which is fine and can work for some people. However, before doing this, you need to make sure that your ferret cannot escape or hurt itself while it's free roaming your house. They do bite cables and they can fit through very small openings. You'll want to have plenty of hammocks and toys inside the cage for your ferret to play with, and you'll also want to have plenty of toys for them for when they're outside of their cage. The ferret cage that I use is unique because it's actually meant to be a chicken hutch. I house my ferrets outside and I only have them inside during severe weather. I really like the cage that I use because it gives them a lot of space, so I'm going to go ahead and give you a little tour of that cage. It's important to understand that they are carnivores. I feed almost all of my animals fresh food, and I try to stay away from processed food for the most part, but my ferrets are the exception to this. I know a lot of people have had really good results from feeding ferrets raw diet, and that's what I would want to feed my ferrets ideally. However, I cannot get them to actually eat a raw diet. They refuse to eat anything other than kibble. I have adopted older ferrets, and I've also heard that younger ferrets, before they reach a year old, are more willing to try different things. So if you can get your ferrets on a raw diet, that's obviously what's best for them. But in case you are feeding a dry food, I am going to tell you how to pick the best brand. Ferrets need a diet that is high in protein. Protein should not be lower than 36% in their food. Fat should be anywhere between 15 to 20%. and the food should be low in fiber. Usually when somebody buys a ferret, they go out to the pet store and they buy ferret food, which makes sense because that's the animal that they have, and there's usually a couple of different brands to choose from when it comes to ferret food. So it may be surprising for some people to hear this, but ferret food is usually not good for ferrets. Ferret food is usually not high enough in protein, and sometimes it has fillers like corn, and ferrets should not be eating corn. And if I don't feed my ferrets ferret food, you're probably wondering, what do I feed them? I use Wellness Core grain-free original formula. This is actually a cat food, but it is really good for ferrets. So let's compare this one to a ferret food like Marshall's. Okay, so Marshall's ferret food has 38% protein, 18% fat, and 3.5% fiber. It also contains corn. Wellness Core has 45% protein, 18% fat, and 3% fiber. So Wellness has a lot more protein and a little less fiber. Also really important, it does not have corn or other types of grain. So it is a much better food for your ferrets. Ferrets do not need fruits or vegetables, so don't feed them any of that. If you want to get treats for your ferrets, make sure that it's something that is made out of meat. Use a water bottle to make sure that your ferrets have access to clean drinking water at all times. They will spill a bowl of water. You can also give your ferrets a bath. I mentioned bathing ferrets in one of my show and tell videos, and a couple of people were upset because I said you could bathe a ferret every couple of weeks, which isn't any specific amount of time. I apologize for not being very specific in my show and tell videos. Unless I'm doing a care video, I sometimes don't go into full detail. And that's just because in my show and tell videos, I am more focused on showing you the animal. So to go more into detail about bathing ferrets, I usually go several weeks before bathing my ferrets again. You shouldn't bathe a ferret more than once a month unless it's absolutely necessary. And by that, I mean they got into something and they have to be cleaned. If you had recently bathed them, it's okay to go ahead and clean them again if they do need to be cleaned. But don't bathe them twice in the same month if you think that they're smelly or that they're oily. Ferrets will actually smell worse and be more oily if they are bathed too frequently. The last time that I gave my ferrets a bath was actually in January. When it comes to ferrets, do not put them in an exercise ball. I'm really not for using those things at all, but they are definitely not appropriate for ferrets. It would restrict their movement and not allow for them to walk normally. And ferrets run, hop, and skip. They wouldn't do well in a ball. Those also don't allow for airflow and get very hot. Exercise wheels are also not appropriate for ferrets, so don't even bother putting one of those in the cage. Just take your ferret out to get some exercise. Thanks for joining me, Ira, Pixie, Oreo, and Basil. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I put out a new video on animals every week.